Hi, I'm Maribel Aber from M&A.TV. I'm here with Leonard Harlan. He is of Castle Harlan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Would you tell us a little bit about your firm?
Well, our firm has been in the business of corporate buyouts for over 25 years. And we have always maintained that middle market is the most interesting part of the business to be in. We decided to expand beyond the United States back in the late 90s, and we, by a process of elimination, went to Australia and created a joint venture in Sydney with a group that had already been in business for almost as long as we had. And we created a company which the acronym is CHAMP, Private Equity, and the CHAMP is Castle Harlan, and the firm down there was Australian Mezzanine, and we're partners. And it became a brand almost instantly. And that tub sits on its own bottom, but we are truly, as Castle Harlan, one of the few folks in the business that can claim that we are truly international buyout firms. We have our joint venture in Australia, and in turn, we've opened an office under the CHAMP name in Singapore. And of course, as today you saw where Howard Morgan has won the International Banker of the Year, that we have been involved both in Europe as well as the United States as well as in Asia. And this gives us tentacles to deal with expanding of companies who are in the middle market but really wish to develop outside the immediate confines of the United States. And this has been fun, exciting, and extremely profitable. And there have been several ventures that I could cite that were rather unique. I mean, one of them, if you want, is we bought the malt business from Conagra and Tower Brands. And this was a languishing business, but we bought it in a unique fashion. It had facilities, the fourth largest in the world, and it had facilities in England, Scotland, Canada, the United States, and Australia. And we brought in our Australian affiliate to be partners with us in the venture. And we financed it with local currencies. So we did it with pound sterling, Canadian dollar, US dollar, and Aussie dollar to minimize the impact of the foreign exchange. It worked out extremely well. We changed the whole nature of the business, which is another element of the way we do business, is to change the business model, or they like to call it paradigm today. And we wound up making almost 7 times on our money in about 3 years with this. And we sold it in Australia to Grain Corp, which is the largest logistics, commodity logistics firm in Australia. So it's a combination of being able to really see with the opportunities that are broader than just the United States. At the same time, this is our base, and this is where we do the bulk of our business.
This morning, Howard talked a lot about the success you've had in Australia. Can you kind of expand on maybe one of the biggest challenges you've overcome, sort of understanding that area now?
Well, Australia is deceptive in the sense that they speak our language, we speak their language. We have the same idioms, but there are subtleties that are really different. Let me give you probably the best example. When we have a business meeting in the United States and something comes up and we say, let's table it, it means let's defer it until next time. The first time I was in a business meeting in Australia, they said, let's defer it. It meant, let's table that. They meant, let's talk about it right now. 180 degrees different. So there are things like that, and yet the popular expression here of gangbusters, you know, that's gangbusters, they'll say that's gangbusters there. But it's deceptive, and I think the big thing, and I think Howard said this in his talk, in accepting his award, is that you have to understand the local cultures. And we felt, and we felt it really worked, was we couldn't parachute into Sydney or Australia alone. We had to be part of the fabric of the community, and that's why we created a joint venture. And we created it with people who are very much part of that fabric, and we had an instant takeoff of the business, which is extremely important.
What do you think is maybe one of the biggest issues facing mergers and acquisitions right now?
Well, right now, I think issue is not so much the mergers and acquisitions, it's growing your companies in a marketplace in which financing is uncertain going forward, the instability of financial markets, but also the problems of regulation in this country, which have become increasingly restrictive.
You're talking about Dodd-Frank.
Well, I'm not talking about just Dodd-Frank, which is a terribly expensive and ridiculous regulations on us, for instance. But I'm really talking about the issues of if you're going to expand your plant, look at the impact of the Boeing decision from the NLRB. If you are going to be building anything new, look at all the number of restrictions you have. OSHA. I mean, you just go down all the lists. And the problem we have is coming out of Washington are no policies. You can't plan. You're in a position where there's no economic policy, no agriculture policy, no energy policy, and then you have increasingly restrictive are the funds for research. And so we have a business environment that is not encouraging at all. And that's a very serious issue. And so that plays itself out if you're in the business like we are of growing companies. You want to find companies in which we can operate within those restraints.
Now, in terms of growing companies, what do you think are some of the mistakes that you see companies making in terms of best practices?
Well, I think, first of all, one has to draw a big distinction between the senior people who are simply stewards of the business and senior people who are the entrepreneurs and the drivers of the business. And one of the really terrible things that's gone on is that a lot of people just walk into a position, but because they're the CEO of some company, they are given extraordinary compensation forms, and the problem then is that they become a lightning rod for all of this stuff that's going on. Whereas if you take someone like a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates or people like that who have taken risks and changed the fabric of their business and moved it along, that's a totally different situation. And that to me, I think, is a real challenge. And the challenge then is, in our business, is to find entrepreneurial managers who are willing to take the risks and make the possible mistakes to grow these businesses. And growing the business is what creates wealth. It's not just maintaining them.
Now, we were very excited to be honoring your company today at our ceremony. Can you talk about a little bit, is it important to be recognized by the M&A advisor community? Is that?
Yes, it really is. It's wonderful to have the respect of our colleagues for trying to be professional in everything we do, trying to build on the past and to create an environment for ourselves, and to have the respect of people like yourselves who see it all to come around and say, good job. And that means an awful lot to all of us. It really does. And we thank you and the entire M&A team for what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Join the leaders.